There comes a moment when silence becomes louder than all your efforts. You've said yes 1,000 times, answered every call, shown up even when you were breaking. And what did you get? Not appreciation, but depletion. Because the world doesn't honor your availability, it exploits it. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And maybe that's what you've been doing too, avoiding your soul, by staying busy, needed, accessible. But deep down, you know, every time you answer out of guilt, every time you say yes when your body screams no, you vanish a little more. This is not love. This is not kindness. This is self-betrayal, disguised as virtue. And the scariest part? You've made it a personality. But ask yourself, who benefits from your constant availability? And what's left of you when they're done taking? You were taught that being needed is the same as being loved. That your value comes from how quickly you answer, how much you give, how small you become. So you molded yourself, flexible, quiet, agreeable. Not because you were kind, but because you were scared. Scared to lose love, scared to be rejected, scared to be alone. But here's the truth. Every time you contort yourself for approval, you are not connecting. You're performing. That's not intimacy. That's survival. Carl Jung called it the persona, the mask we wear to make ourselves acceptable to society. But masks are suffocating, and when you live behind one long enough, you forget what your real face even looks like. You say yes to keep peace, but inside, you're raging. You show up for everyone else, but no one shows up for you. You're not living, you're rehearsing. And here's what no one tells you. The world won't stop you. They'll let you bleed out, because as long as you're available, they're comfortable. Until you're not. Until you vanish. Until one day, your silence becomes louder than all your effort ever was. You know this war. The one between the real you, the tired, angry, craving space version of you, and the fake smile you put on because it's expected. You cancel your plans. You reply when you're half dead. You say it's okay when it's absolutely not. Why? Because you're performing love. But love that's performed is not love. It's control. You were taught early, if you're helpful, you're safe. If you're agreeable, you're wanted. So you buried your no. You silenced your truth. And now? You're surrounded by people who don't even know who you are, only who you pretend to be. Carl Jung said, "In each of us, there is another whom we do not know." That stranger inside, she's the one who's screaming now, begging you to stop explaining, stop fixing, stop being nice just to survive. You think your role keeps you loved, but it keeps you invisible. And nothing is more lonely than being adored for the mask you wear. You're not just tired, you are soul-tired. Because this isn't about sleep, this is about all the parts of you screaming from neglect. You feel resentful, but call it sensitivity. You feel invisible, but call it humility. You feel anxious, but call it empathy. Stop. These are not flaws, these are messages. Jung said, "Depression is like a woman in black. If she appears, don't send her away. Invite her in. Listen to what she wants." What if your sadness isn't the malfunction, but a messenger? What if your burnout is your soul saying, "Come home, I miss you"? Every time you betray your truth to make others comfortable, you teach yourself you don't matter. But your soul disagrees, and your body keeps score. You're not broken. You're responding to a life where your needs have always been last. It's not depression, it's self-abandonment. And your exhaustion is not a weakness. It's a rebellion. There's a part of you you've locked away, not because it was wrong, but because it was inconvenient. The angry part, the exhausted part, the one that said, "I matter too." Carl Jung called it the shadow. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your people-pleasing, your inability to say no, that's not you. That's the wound acting out. You keep thinking it's your nature to give. It's not. It's your trauma. And the parts of you that you deny, they don't disappear. They sabotage, they resent, they scream in silence. The real healing doesn't start when you try harder to be kind. It starts when you listen to the shadow and say, "I see you. I'm sorry. I'm not leaving you again." That is not selfish. That is sacred. Suddenly you see it. The same kind of people you attract, the same roles you play, the same way you disappear. You realize this was never about them. It's about you and what you believed you had to be in order to be loved. But knowing the pattern doesn't break it. Breaking it does. And that's messy. Because once you start saying no, the backlash comes, not just from others, from inside you. The guilt, the fear, the shaking, but also the power. Carl Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." When you look inwards and ask, "What do I want?" you shake the whole system. And some people will walk away. Let them. Because the price of staying small is your soul. And that's too high. You've been taught to hustle for worth, to over-deliver, to over-explain, to be emotionally available on demand. But what if the most radical thing you can do is be still? Stillness isn't absence, it's depth. Jung said, "Your visions will become clearer only when you can look into your own heart." Stillness is not weakness, it's refusal. Refusal to perform, refusal to chase, refusal to abandon yourself. When you sit in silence, you hear your real voice, not the one filtered through fear, but the one that says, "I don't owe anyone an explanation." That's not ego, that's evolution. You don't need to become someone new. You need to unbecome what you had to be. Carl Jung called it individuation. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. You've lived as the persona, the people-pleaser, the fixer, but now you're meeting the self, the sovereign, the sacred. Integration isn't comfortable, it's terrifying, because it means dropping the act, saying no, disappointing people, walking away. But here's what's on the other side. Peace, not performance. Presence, not pretending. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You just need to be true to yourself. They trained you to respond immediately, emotionally, predictably, because that made you controllable. But what happens when you stop? When you don't reply to the provocation? When you don't chase? When you choose silence? Everything shifts. People call you cold, distant, changed, good, because the version they miss was never real. Carl Jung warned, we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. When you stop reacting, you force others to sit with their own shadows, and most people are not ready for that, but you are. You're no longer a mirror for their needs. You're a wall they can't climb, a silence they can't decode. That's power, and they hate it. What happens after the mask falls, after the silence, after the storm of guilt and withdrawal? Clarity, peace, a strange, beautiful solitude. Carl Jung wrote, "The individual must separate himself from the crowd, become what he really is." That's what you're doing now. Not disappearing, but reappearing as you. And yes, you'll lose people, but you'll find yourself. You'll lose approval, but gain truth. So now, I'll ask you, are you ready to be misunderstood in the name of your peace? Are you ready to choose silence over noise, stillness over chaos, truth over performance? If yes, comment below. Let it be your declaration. And if you're walking this path with me, subscribe, because the next video, we're not just surviving anymore, we're rising together.